Hello and welcome to the world premiere of Turning Up the Heat. I am Tom Chacho and with me is Corey Bauman. How you doing, Corey?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Not too bad. All right. What we are is a baseball-oriented radio show broadcasting live from River West Film and Video. What we are going to cover isn't just Brewers baseball. It's kind of the dynamic of baseball, the sport, where it is, what's happening around the league, with a focus on the Brewers at the beginning of the show, and then we'll kind of branch off in the second half. So I'd like to start with the review of how 2012 went.
Well, I mean, we kind of got off to an all right start. I don't know. There was a lot of it came down, and I think everybody who's listening can just agree that the bullpen was pretty much what cost us the season, with, you know, between K-Rod and Axford and the other guys giving up holds and then ultimately costing us games.
And low and par is kind of general mediocrity.
Right. In general, it's just mediocrity across the board. Axford ended up rebounding, and then we had a run near the end. But I think we could have ran away with the division without any of that coming down to it, you know.
Yeah, we kind of had, well, we had a league, or a baseball's worst ERA. We were effectively the worst bullpen in baseball with a 4.66 ERA, which is, for relief, for the perspective of relief, pretty terrible.
Yeah, you basically want to keep it around 3.
Yeah. When we were going into the season, we put K-Rod up for arbitration. He ended up accepting it, which isn't what we expected. We expected him to sign with another team. The Padres were in on it for a little while. He ended up joining us, and we just figured, well, worst case scenario, now we just have a really good bullpen. We kind of needed everyone to fall apart for 2012 to not be a success. And can't really blame anyone other than the players themselves, because that's exactly what happened. Ricky Weeks in 2012 looked like Casey McGee in 2011. On July 30th, we had to terminate Stan Kiles, our bullpen coach, and eventually traded Greinke for our now young shortstop, Gene Segura. But yeah, like you said, towards the end, we did have a little bit of a rally going. How many games were we out of the wild card spot?
It was something like 8.
By the end, I thought it was closer to 3 or even maybe
yeah, near the end.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point though, we were way out of it with like no chance, and all of a sudden, we were right in the thick of it.
Yeah. Well, since the season ended and we kind of got rid of. Sorry. We kind of got rid of a lot of the dead weight. Did not tender contracts with Lowe or Parra.
Randy Wolf.
K-Rod's gone. We have done some rebuilding. We acquired Burke Badenhop on December 1st, 2012 for a prospect, Raul Mondesi Jr., who is, in fact, the son of Raul Mondesi. I didn't really see any prospective explosion from him, so it's pretty good grab. He has some starting experience, but I think we're going to use him as out of the bullpen as our sinker pitcher for
Yeah, he'll come in, especially if he's throwing a sinker. We're going to use him a lot when we desperately need a double play. I think that he'll also be a guy because he has some starting. Some starting experience. He'll probably end up being a guy who's going to eat innings for us. He could very well play mop-up duty role. We'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, he might even be good enough to not have to use as that. Last year he posted a 3.3 ERA over 56 experiences, which is actually nothing to really cough at for a reliever. That's hard work.
Yeah. Yeah, posting anything around a 3, like I said, is going to be great. That's going to keep you in games.
Mm-hmm. And another guy we required is Tom Gorzolani, or signed, I should say.
Yeah. So last year he was 4-2 with a 2.88 ERA and 1 save. He made 45 appearances. We got him for 2 years at $5.77 million. I think that he's going to be a guy that's going to come through. He could end up being a setup guy. We'll see how that plays out with Henderson. And again, he's going to be. It's nice to actually have somebody you can depend on as a lefty, because obviously Parra wasn't going to cut it.
Yeah, there's a lot of anger towards Manny Parra on the show. Just resentment over years of abuse.
Right.
The best year we had with Manny Parra on our roster is when he was injured for the entire season.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the Bull Durham $1 million arm, 10-cent head. He just wasn't with it mentally, and he had it here, and then he'd lose it completely. And so I'm glad that we're finally pretty much done with them. So
yeah, last time I checked, Minnesota had waning interest in him and eventually just kind of cut off talks. We'll see what happens to Manny Parra. I mean, I wish him all the best. I don't want to see him in a Brewers uniform again.
Yeah. Mike Gonzalez is another guy we picked up. We got him for 1 year, $2.25 million guaranteed. There's some incentives involved that I don't know the specifics of, but he had a 3.03 ERA last year and a pretty good strikeout to 9 inning rate of 9.8. I mean, anytime you can get at least basically 1 strikeout an inning, that's pretty good. I don't think he's going to be used for. I think he's going to be a specialty guy. As baseball nerds would call it, a loogie, or the left out, or sorry, for a 1-out, lefty.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Just go out there and he's going to be our lefty specialist.
Yeah, so. He's going to be a versatile addition. I mean, he has closing experience. He's got velocity, so he could be a setup guy. He could be a special. He can fit into a lot of roles. I think he was a good grab, considering we don't know what Axford's going to be after last year's meltdown. It could go one way or the other. But Gonzalez could be a backup closer. At least we have a guy in the pen who can do that.
Well, and Gorzolani could do the same thing. So, we do have some depth in that thing. I think that the Brewers are always pretty smart about going out and getting they get a guy basically off the trash heap. They've done it, and in the end, these guys kind of fall out, but they put up a couple of great years, and then the Brewers are able to move on pretty easily without putting, dedicating a lot of money into them and stuff. And I think Axford getting that $5 million, that's pretty good, but that's, once you start talking about, $9-10 million, is it really worth it to have a closer there?
No, I mean, we saw that with K-Rod last year. We could have done a lot more with that money.
Right.
I mean, obviously he had the unexpected meltdown, but we aren't going to be able to sustain ourselves, go out and get someone else, because we spent all this money on this guy who's a flailing relief pitcher. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's good to go out and not spend a whole heap on that. Doug Melvin did do it again. He's really good at avoiding arbitration with his players. This year he had 0. I think the last arbitration player he had was Corey Hart, maybe?
Yeah, that was the last one that went to trial, and somehow Corey Hart won that.
Yeah, Corey Hart, I mean,
he proved
as it turns out, he earned it, but he certainly was not expected to do as well.
Right, I don't think anybody expected him to win that, but the Major League Baseball, the union, and their representatives do a really good job on keeping their players and making them happy.
Yeah, well, speaking of happy players, Carlos Gomez almost tripled his salary, earning $4.3 million this year. What do you expect from Carlos this year?
I think you can expect, he's starting to come around. If we can get that average up, that's going to be huge. If we can get him from that 260 mark to 280, he does show he's got power. He's definitely got the speed, and he's a great guy in the outfield, as I think everybody who's watched the Brewers can tell. But
oh, yeah.
Again, if we can just get that batting average up and kind of take away some of the strikeouts, he's getting older. I think what's he going to be, like 28 this year?
I am not sure. I believe you're right on that. Let me see here.
So, to have him, and especially he'll probably be, I don't know, he could either bat second or he'll be batting sixth, seventh.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we'll see how it plays out if they want to put, him in the 2 role or, if Ricky Weeks is going to be batting second. I think we've got it locked down with Nori Aoki being the leadoff guy.
Oh, absolutely. He's kind of more of a natural leadoff guy. Carlos Gomez is going to be 28. You're right.
Okay.
Actually, I think he just turned 28. No, he just turned 27. My mistake.
All right.
Yeah, if you look, Gomez is kind of quietly getting better and better. When we first got him, he was kind of a frustrating juvenile swing at everything.
Right.
Kind of a flailing swing. He has gotten more solid. He's gotten a little bit more power. His home run rate skyrocketed, actually.
Yeah.
He could, if he keeps developing, he's going to look a little bit more like there's a young piano player here, in case you can't tell. He's going to be not exactly Michael Bourne, but he's going to be a pretty good center fielder. $4.3 million. I think he can earn it. Estrada made 2. I think that's definitely fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Just really quick touching on Gomez's numbers from last year. He hit 8 home runs in 2011. He batted 19 in 2012. He also picked up pretty much a full-time role. Nyjer Morgan was pretty much out of the picture by the end of July.
Yeah.
If not even sooner. And again, it is on base percentage. Right now it's at 305. So if he can start being a little bit more disciplined, take some more walks, because he can swipe a bag, as I think everybody knows. Last year he had 37, up from 16 in 2011. So
yeah, and he's not the most durable guy, but generally the only injuries he sustains is when he's playing insanely hard, doing some crazy somersault catches, and
Right.
hopefully he can get his. So we're in a public spot here.
we had a couple of visitors stopping by.
Those questions.
No big deal. They're just trying to rent a movie.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah. You have any with Estrada? You got any rotation concerns, given that we haven't picked up any big name starters?
I think that obviously the offseason isn't over. Kyle Loesch is out there. We'll see what happens, but I'm pretty sure that Doug's done spending money. If he can find a way to maybe make a trade, and get somebody, I really was hoping that he'd find a way to get R.A. Dickey, but obviously the Blue Jays were able to, get him, and they were able to give up some for him. The Blue Jays are really going for it this year, though, so I guess.
Yeah, they went from a pretty kind of flimsy rotation to one that's absolutely going to kill a lot.
Right.
Mark Burley, I think, is their 3 pitcher behind Josh Johnson and Dickey, and that's going to be brutal.
Yeah, but back to what we're getting to. Obviously, Yo's going to be the number 1. I think Estrada or Fires will be, 2, and, the other one will be number 3. From there, we've got Willie Peralta,
Mark Rogers, and then Thornburg.
Yeah. And they're going to be batting out for the last 3 spots there. There'll be 2 guys that get that. But you never know. Somebody could emerge. I don't think that.
There's Narveson, too.
Narveson's pretty much guaranteed a spot. So, yeah, so there's 3 guys battling out that final spot.
Yeah.
Narveson will probably be the number 4 guy this year.
Yeah. I think by the end of the year, we're facing a pretty brutal competition between the Cardinals and the Reds. So, it's gonna take a lot to overcome. I think by the end of the year, we're gonna see maybe a player hurt, and that's kind of why I'm more concerned about picking up a starter, because we don't really have a definite backup. If Fires has his durability up and he's going to be able to pitch a full major league season, he's going to be really good.
Yeah,
I think Fires looks pretty brutal. I don't think it was just a fluke.
Yeah, how many innings did he have last year? I believe it was right around 160.
Between the 2 leagues?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something right around there.
So, you push that up again to 180, 190. We're not going to give him the Strasburg treatment. He's going to go out there and he's going to throw. And if he's doing well, they're not going to shut him down at any point unless we are completely out of it. But
right.
Again, Melvin's going to find a way to get somebody in there. If we're in the thick of things and mid-June, mid-June, early July shows up, he's going to be, scouting, making calls, doing
Or even late March. I mean, he has been known to go out and get those last-minute trades done.
That's how we got
training.
Morgan.
Right. And I don't know, Morgan ended up being a pretty substantial spark for us. I know last year was kind of a... I was kind of toying with the idea that Niger Morgan may be interested in re-signing with the Crew in light of Corey Hart's recent knee fiasco.
Well, the thing is, though, is I think that they're going to be looking more for somebody who can play first base, not so much an outfielder.
What do you think Gamel's going to do?
I think Gamel's going to be playing first.
Oh, you're just talking about a bench bat.
But if you're looking for somebody off the bench, I mean, we don't have Ishikawa anymore.
Right, yeah, he's an Oriole.
And so what we need to do is just make sure that we can have somebody who can cover that position. I don't know if Lucroy or Maldonado can do it, but you don't really want to have them playing every single day either.
No, you don't. Especially because those are two pretty valuable catchers. I mean, having a player like Maldonado as a backup is an absolute privilege because that guy can swing.
He's a guy who I thought might have been traded, who would have been part of, potentially like an R.A. Dickey type deal.
Right.
Because teams need solid catchers, and we've got two of them.
Yeah, we have enviable catching depth too.
Which is pretty amazing if you think about the Brewers' history with catchers.
Yeah, it's incredibly. It's kind of all of a sudden. I was looking at bargain players that might be able to play the 2 or 3 months that Hart would be gone. Just put him on the bench. Casey Kochman looked like a good idea. I wish Travis Hafner could play a position because he'd be a great grab.
Yeah, I have him for his bat especially.
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to maybe bring Lyle Overbay back. He actually was not terrible for an old guy last year.
Yeah, well, Lyle Overbay was also he was a fan favorite when he was here in his short tenure. Obviously, then Prince Fielder took over, and that was it for him.
Yeah. So what do you make of the Brewers' coming season? You think that we got a fighting chance here?
I think we're probably looking at a wild card. I don't think we can take the division. The way that the Reds are set up, they're just good. And somehow every year, I thought St. Louis wasn't really going to be much, but
they're pesky.
Yeah.
They stick around.
Yeah.
And they haven't really gotten any worse. They have gotten a little bit older. I mean, it's going to be hard for Carlos Beltran to put together another year like that. And Berkman's gone. He's on the Rangers now, which is, that's fine for everyone, I guess. He's kind of a liability because his injury that he sustained last year is kind of one of those age injuries. It's not like, I don't think he's going to be what he was.
Right. But they've got guys coming up, and we'll just see how they pan out. The Pirates are going to be the Pirates. I guarantee that McCutchen's going to keep them into the in it for a while, but eventually their pitching is just going to kind of collapse as it usually does.
Yeah. They have a deal with Francisco Liriano, who the deal hasn't been official because they kind of like the Mike Napoli deal. During the physical, they found, I think, some sort of elbow strain or maybe a shoulder strain or something like that. So their pitching hasn't changed at all. The one big thing they got is Russell Martin, adding an aging catcher to the mix. It's not really going to be...
well, he's going to bat about 180.
Yeah.
If he's like he was on my fantasy baseball team last year.
Yeah, I don't really understand the hype. I think a lot of the noise surrounding that was just the fact that the Yankees wanted him and the Pirates got him, and that's kind of an anomaly. So.
Yeah, he had a couple of great seasons when he was with Los Angeles, but he went to the Yankees, then that was it.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened over the last 3 years or so, but he put up great numbers when he first broke in.
Yeah, well, and catchers are going to do that. I don't know. I guess I'm a little less optimistic. I think the wild card mix is going to be a little too tough, even with the with the 2 per league now. The Braves are going to be really good, but they're not going to be as good as the Nationals. I'm picking the Nationals just to absolutely slaughter everything and be the best team in baseball.
Yeah,
again.
I think so. And hopefully, it drove me nuts last year trying to watch that, and then Strasburg's out.
Yeah.
Watching that guy throw is amazing, but you can't. At some point, you gotta take off the training wheels and just let them ride.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. RG3, you gotta protect your franchise guys, and I guess if they were optimistic enough, they had Gio Gonzalez, they had Jordan Zimmerman. It's not like it was totally crazy to think that.
Yeah, but put that guy in the mix, and he's the best of the 3.
I think they would have won the World Series. I'll be totally honest.
Right.
And I think he probably would have been safe. All I'm saying is that I understand protecting him.
Well, they babied him before, and he got TJ surgery within like 8 starts. So,
Yeah, that's true.
so I mean, I don't know. It's something that you can't. It's a freaky thing.
Yeah,
but
this year the Nationals also added Dan Herron, and I think that's going to be the bargain of the offseason.
Yeah,
there. 1
yeah.
year.
So like 4, pretty stellar pitchers in that rotation.
Yeah.
And then they got LaRoche back. We'll get more into this in a little bit with the free agent signings, unless you want to just jump right into it.
No. I mean, I guess a few more things. With the Brewers, they're going to be. I mean, I think they're going to have a winning record. It's just going to be tough. It's going to be a lot of competition, a lot of hard competition. The National League is, in my opinion, the more challenging league now. Teams like the Nationals have really stepped it up. The Braves have really stepped it up. The Reds look really, really, really good. The Dodgers, I know that it should seem obvious that the Dodgers are going to be good, but you get all those players together, you're going to get a case of the
divas.
Yeah. So, I don't know how the Dodgers are going to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty easy just to I wish, Milwaukee could say we've got $250 million and we're just ready to go for it. Magic Johnson and his crew, whatever they got going. But, I mean, it's proved that, while you can buy like a winning record, you can't buy a championship.
Right.
Obviously, the Yankees have proved that many times.
Oh, absolutely. So. Yeah, I mean, and one case would be the Heat, their first year. I mean, they look like they were kind of imploding. Obviously, they got it together next year, but 3 stars doesn't, any amount of stars you put together doesn't mean you're going to win.
Or the Philadelphia Eagles last year.
Yeah, or this year's.
But,
anyways.
That's different franchises, different sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see how that all pans out. I think 85, 86 wins is pretty realistic for this club. But again, who knows what's going to happen? We can make some moves. The interleague schedule going through year out, though, is going to be a big difference maker as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
We're not going to be sitting there focused on, just like the hottest 3 teams in the AL West, or the AL East, or whatever the case may be. And that seems to usually happen to us with interleague play. You get the Twins, and then you get 3 other teams who just happen to, like last year, the Royals.
Yeah, that was humiliating.
Yeah,
especially because there should have been 3 pretty solid wins in a row, and that was, and then the Phillies later. Those are some dark days for the Brewers.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the free agent activity that's existed outside of the realm of the Brewers. Former Brewer Zach Greinke, 6 years, $147 million by the diva-heavy Los Angeles Dodgers. It's the highest ever salary for a right-handed pitcher. What do you think of that?
Yeah. Well, and obviously, you're paying for a guy who's going to be great, but I don't know. We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, and it might just be rhetoric, but a lot of sports guys are talking about Greinke. He's had a history of social anxiety disorder and said, well, Kansas City would be great for him. Milwaukee's great for him. These are smaller markets, and there's not a whole lot of media. Los Angeles is different than that.
Right. The media's everywhere. And then you've got a whole bunch of other great players around you. I don't know how that's going to affect them. And being on the West, you got a lot more travel. I don't know if that's going to be much of a difference or not either, but all in all, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And he was great with the Royals. He was great with us. But
I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to win a Cy Young again.
No.
I think that was a pretty incredible season. It's too bad it was with the Royals, or he could have won, 25 games.
Yeah.
But
they should have traded him then, seeing what would have happened. I mean, in terms of, this is kind of a loaded term, but in terms of pitchability, he's probably the best pitcher I've ever seen. He's just solid. I mean, when he's on, he's just absolutely dominating. And he plays his heart out. I don't know if you remember last year when he threw the ball into the ground and got ejected from the game.
Yeah,
he did that out of frustration
great.
for himself.
Right.
When you sign a pitcher to something like 6 years, you're running a risk. You're really paying for 3 or 4 good years, and after that, it's got
and who knows what's going to happen from there.
Yeah.
And he could also pull a Mike Hampton, go out there, throw his arm out, and that'd be it.
Yep.
And that's why we don't ever spend that kind of money and throw that at pitchers.
Well, I like Loesch, but that's separate. Speaking of fragile players, Josh Hamilton signed a 5-year, $125 million contract with the rival Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Kind of a stab in the back to his former Rangers team. I actively dislike this contract for Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think that, the Brewers were in heavy talks about, possibly getting him that, Nairn being his former hitting coach and
accountability
right.
guy.
But, I guess if you're going to do meth for 5 years, you're gonna break down, especially in a pretty physical sport where you're running a lot. And
I mean, he has a history of injuries as it is. I mean, and the kind of injuries that suggest.
Right. I mean, yeah, injuries is pretty much what started him off into the majors on the wrong foot.
Yeah, that's
and all
not
the
going to
rehab
look.
And everything.
Yeah, it's not going to look good for their GM when Pujols and him start going down at the same time, and Mike Trout's just. I mean, that's going to be one of those things where you have to trade Mike Trout to rebuild your team because you have all these aging, untradeable contracts.
Right.
So. I don't know. I wouldn't have done it. I didn't like the C.J. Wilson contract or the Pujols contract last year. I think the Angels are just freaking out because the Dodgers are making big moves and they feel like they've got to make big moves. Not saying Hamilton's a bad player. He's going to probably be really good this year, at least for most of it. But
it's funny that how the Angels do respond to the Dodgers because they're not even in the same league.
No.
I mean, you're just trying to win seats basically throughout the city, but in a town of the biggest town in America, you'd figure that they should be able to sell out every game anyway.
Yeah, you'd think. It's not that easy. All right. Another interesting contract I saw was Mike Napoli. He was supposed to be a 3-year contract for $39 million. And again, the physical. Whenever you see a free agent signing and it says pending physical, that's not a formality. They found a pretty substantial hip injury in Napoli, and they decided to go back on their contract. Negotiations went on for a long time, and they ended up settling from 3 years at $39 million to 1 year, $5 million, with incentives worth $13 million total.
Yeah.
That's a big drop off for Mike Napoli.
Yeah, I'm sure the Christmas presents weren't as big and great as they should have been.
Yeah, I feel bad for the guy because as soon as word gets out that you got something like a hip injury, the ball was really in Boston's court because when any other team that would have wanted to sign him would say, well, what's Boston going to offer? What's Boston going to offer? So Boston offered what they did. It didn't even have to be an accurate bargain, and we'll see. His numbers at Fenway are just outrageous. Granted, it's a small sample size, but I think the only player with the better numbers overall in the history of baseball is Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
So
that's something else.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, $5 million might be.
That could be the steal, though.
Yeah, it could be. It could be $5 million down the drain. Boston's doesn't really have to worry about it. But.
Yeah.
And one last big name contract I wanted to talk about was Rafael Soriano.
Yeah, this one's something else. He's getting 28 for 2 years.
Yep, and it's going to be worth every penny, I think.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He put up Mariano Rivera numbers last year.
Yeah, but Mariano Rivera would be the only guy I'd give that much money to, and that would have been 10 years ago. Mariano 10 years ago.
Yeah, but what happened with the Nationals last year in the playoffs? It was a bullpen meltdown. They were the only weak spot in the Nationals lineup, and now you're gonna have a guy like Rafael Soriano who just dominates when he's in there.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have who's gonna set up? Clippard?
I would imagine Clippard's gonna be the guy who's gonna set up.
It's gonna be pretty good, I think. 2 years, $28 million is a lot, but I think they really want to win the World Series the next 2 years.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, that's the only time when you do throw that kind of money at a closer. Like I said, I really just appreciate the way that Melvin does it. I would never see him doing that. I'd rather much rather go after, a hitter for who can get for 14.
Yeah, but if we had last year's, let's say we were going into the 2012 season as opposed to coming out of it, and you knew Axford was going to have a meltdown, how much would you have griped if Soriano had gotten those 2 years by Doug Melvin?
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying. Obviously, but then it can go the other way too, and Soriano can show up and have a meltdown in the middle of May, and all of a sudden you're back to Clippard again.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's a risk. I think a bigger risk is their kind of oversight of left-handed pitchers. I know their pitchers do have good splits against both sides of the plate, but the only left-hander they have right now is Zach Duke.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember Zach Duke.
Zach Duke was a hot prospect coming up with the Pirates, and then he's kind of bounced around a little bit, but he never really panned out. I believe, and I'll double check this real quick, but I'm pretty sure that his career numbers are something where like in 4 or 5 ERA, maybe even a little higher, and his WHIP is something like 1.5. So, yeah, to have him as your only lefty is not really saying much.
Incidentally, 2 of their lefties last year were Mike Gonzalez and Tom Gorzolani. Put up pretty good numbers for them, and now they're on the Brewers. So,
yeah, his career numbers here. Wow, I was pretty much spot on with this as a 4.52 ERA with a 1.485 WHIP. So, and his strikeout to ball ratio is 1.91. So not really all that great there either. He's walking, a decent amount of guys.
All right. Well, you wanted to talk a little bit about the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, the lineups were announced this week, and for the U.S., the order, and I don't know exactly what the batting order is going to go as, but for catcher we've got Joe Mauer, and he'll be in there along with Lucroy and was it Arsenebia?
Yeah.
And so Arsenebia is going to be catching whenever R.A. Dickey's throwing. But then Teixeira will be playing first. Brandon Phillips will be playing second. Jimmy Rollins will be playing shortstop. David Wright, third base. Ryan Braun in left field. Adam Jones in center field. And then Giancarlo Stanton will be playing in right. And on the bench, they've got Ben Zorbis, who I love. That guy can play. Yeah, he can play outfield and infield.
Yeah, he's one of the more underrated players in baseball, in my opinion.
Yeah, plus he can hit for power. So he'll be a great guy that'll be coming off the bench. You got Bloomquist also being on the infield.
Good utility guy.
And a good utility guy. Victorino is going to be playing out there. I'm really kind of surprised that, I'll get to this in a minute, I guess. Well, never mind. And Lucroy is the other guy playing catcher. But, yeah, I'm kind of surprised that a guy like McCutchen isn't going to be playing.
Yeah, a lot of those – I mean, you'd think that Joe Mauer is not the Joe Mauer that he was. And you'd think that there are some pretty prominent catchers that you can throw in there.
Probably, I was going to say Buster Posey right away because he can play first and he can catch. I see why they're using Mauer. Because he can play in both positions, but most catchers can. Mm-hmm. So it'll be good to, have him available for first base if something were to happen to Teixeira. But again, I'd rather have Buster Posey. You could also just put it as, he's coming off an MVP season. He had a ridiculous injury 2 years ago. The Giants might not have wanted him to be out there.
Scott Cousins just, I thought that might have ruined his career, and when that's the Buster Posey injury that you were talking about.
Yeah. When he was blocking home and just got trampled.
Yeah, his leg was at a weird angle. If you want to see something upsetting, you can probably YouTube the injury. It's nasty, and then he came back and just slaughtered. Personally, I think Ryan Braun deserved the MVP last year. It's kind of an arbitrary award, in my opinion, but I think that Kemp deserved it the year that Braun won it, so... anyways.
Yeah, I was kind of, I don't know, Jimmy Rollins out there, he's a vet to the Classic. I'm kind of surprised that maybe they didn't just give it to Jeter, who was coming off of a decent, a great year, especially for his age, and just give him the chance to play in it once. But, I have no problem with Wright at third. The outfield is going to just smoke.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go out there and they're just going to rake. Teixeira's probably going to be fine. I'm kind of surprised that, maybe Prince Fielder didn't do it, get another lefty in the lineup. But,
especially to reunite Braun and Fielder would have been, that was just a proven 1-2.
Yeah.
3-4, but,
Yeah, I know what you meant, the punch, right?
Yeah.
In the rotation, and then this is kind of interesting, R.A. Dickey is going to be the ace, and then they've got Chris Medlin, who was ridiculous last season for the second half, going like 10-1, posted it under a 2 ERA.
He's going to be really good this year, I think.
Yeah, and he just was lights out. Derek Holland and Vogelsong, and I don't know. I think I'm not really quite sure how those two got in over guys like Kershaw or Verlander or Price, Sabathia.
Well, what I was going to
Hamels.
make when you were going to say that, Hamels, and what I was going to make when you were talking about guys like McCutcheon, we don't really know if those guys were offered positions. I mean, maybe they were, and they just turned it down.
Yeah.
The only person I heard publicly, a guy who I'm not sure why he was offered over other people either, is Joe Nathan. I mean, he turned it down just because he didn't want to play what's effectively an arbitrary game.
Yeah. I mean, but I guess it's, the baseball version, of the Olympics. So if it's going to be every 4 years, if you're offered to do it, you'd think that most of these guys would take that on. I'm sure that, if nothing else, there's got to be cash involved with the sponsorships.
Yeah.
They're going to be getting. I don't really know how much, how much else as far as money goes that comes into play, but. I was kind of, like I said, I was surprised about Derek Holland being in there. Him and Vogelsong can provide some, leadership as far as playing in the postseason and games that are meaningful. The only thing I could really come up with is that a lot of the guys I just named are all power pitchers. Mm-hmm. It might take them a month to loosen up their arm, although then you start training now.
Yeah.
To get that going. But we'll see, and hopefully Medlin comes out and he can be great. I think R.A. Dickey will be a guy that maybe they can use him on short rotation, being a knuckler.
Yeah.
And plus, I don't know how many of these other countries, the ones that really, the Israels and and the Brazils out there, how many of them have ever even seen a knuckleball?
Yeah, and that was a good strategic grab.
Yeah.
Dickey and
and I think having him on the team would have been great. I think. Having him more as like a number 3 guy though in that rotation would have maybe even been better.
Yeah.
And again, having Kershaw or Verlander or somebody else out there.
He's an enthusiastic guy for this type of thing, though. He's pretty adventurous.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember last year when he actually risked his whole contract with the Mets to go climb Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And then used that to put money into a fund. I think the cause was to prevent and eliminate child trafficking. So that was cool. I like R.A. Dickey is the point.
Yeah, no, I like that guy a lot too. And the relievers, I'm all set with. There's really nobody on there that I don't think belongs. Kimbrel's going to be our closer.
Good, best closer in baseball.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that Chris Perez, who's also currently a closer, he'll probably be playing the setup role. And then you've got these other guys, Jeremy Affeld, Heath Bell, Mitchell Boggs.
Felt's good. Heath Bell is not as good.
Yeah, that's the guy I'm going to point out in a minute. Tim Collins, Luke Gregerson, Vinny Pistano. But yeah, Heath Bell last year, 5.09 ERA with a 1.555 whip. And that might have just been the whole meltdown in Miami. But
kind of a... Yeah.
I just think there's other guys that you probably could have brought out there. Tyler Clippard being one of them. I heard Sergio Romo might be playing for Mexico. I'm not even sure about that. But like John Broxton, he could be a guy that could go out there.
Yeah, I don't know why Broxton still isn't getting the accolades that he. I mean, I know he was injured for a long time, but that guy's killer, and he's going to be I wrote a little thing about the Reds. If they keep Aroldis Chapman as their closer and keep Broxton as a setup,
I'm pretty sure that they're going to have Chapman. They're going to stretch Chapman out. I think he's going to start.
Bad idea.
Yeah, I think he could be a dominant closer.
I just don't know why you mess with that. Look what happened to Neftali Feliz.
Yeah. On the other token, look what happened to John Smoltz. He went back and forth, and he's going to go in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but I don't think you can really compare everyone to John Smoltz.
No, you can't. But, Lennis Chapman's the kind of guy who's got that talent, obviously the whole world's looking at him. I love that he's got 103 tattooed on his arm, or 106 tattooed on his arm.
Yeah. Well, any closing thoughts about the World Baseball Classic?
Well, we'll talk about it more as it approaches and when it starts getting into the thick of it. But I like the United States' chances. Puerto Rico's always going to have a shot. Venezuela's going to have a shot. In Japan, we'll see if they defend again. They've won the last two, the first and second of them all, and then but they don't have an Ichiro playing or Daisuke,
Right.
or
Who are the big names
Darvish.
for them this year?
I don't know if they have any.
I didn't hear of any.
So here I can.
I guess I haven't really focused too much on the World Baseball Classic. I know Yo is playing for Mexico. I think that's all I know. that's the only note that I took down. And J.C. Romero is playing again.
I'm bringing it up right now, and there really isn't anybody. I think I saw Kaz Matsui on here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's be playing the infield. But I mean, otherwise, yeah, there's really nobody. I mean, Karada decided he wasn't going to play. So these are all guys that, either if they're in the big leagues, they're not big names by any means, and otherwise, I think they're all just playing for Japan. So, it'll be fun to watch them. One of my favorite things about the Classic is just watching a bunch of guys you've never seen before, and
Right.
seeing like how Japanese players play, and their style compared to it. They play a lot of small ball,
A lot of slap hitting.
right. It's a lot of fun to watch. So, and then you get to see guys, like Hanley Ramirez, and like all the Dominican guys just getting together and just raking, and I gotta look that up, but they've got a great team as always. Their pitching though is not gonna be as good as I don't know if their pitching will carry them.
No, I think from what I've been hearing, the U.S. has got a pretty solid chance this year, and with an outfield like we have, not to be a homer or anything, but I think Ryan Braun is maybe the best or second best all-around player in the outfield.
Yeah.
Maybe next to Mike Trout, because Mike Trout's the natural.
Yeah. Well, I
He's
think
going to win the MVP next year.
Yeah. I mean, Braun's obviously. It's going to be Braun, Trout, McCutchen. Those are going to be three of the biggest names out there.
McCutchen's got an issue of durability and an issue of kind of shining beneath the largely mediocre lineup that the Pirates keep putting together. And then not to say they don't have bad luck. I mean, they do, but
looking at the Dominican roster here for the pitching staff, Edison Volquez could very well be their ace. It's going to be either him or Wandy Rodriguez. So that's not really saying a whole lot. I would imagine Octavio Dotel will be the setup guy while Fernando Rodney shuts it down at the end.
Man, Rodney, that guy.
But yeah, that guy is great, and
that was the absolute steal of the offseason last year.
Yeah, he really stepped up. The infield for the Dominican is going to have Beltre, Cano, Edwin Encarnacion, Ramirez, Hanley Ramirez, Jose Reyes, Miguel Tejada.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's rake.
And then Miguel Tejada.
And then
old.
And then right. And then you're gonna have, but he's probably not gonna be starting. I'm imagining that Ramirez
they're gonna rest him for his minor league appearance with the Royals this year.
Yeah, Ramirez will probably play third. Reyes will play short.
Yeah.
In the outfield, they've got Melky Cabrera, Nelson Cruz, and Carlos Gomez. So
solid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad.
Yeah. I don't know if right now they've got them ranked as 13th, and for the U.S., we'll just check their ranking really quick, and then I'll quick run by the Venezuela team for you. The U.S. is ranked number 2, so we're doing.
Okay, that's acceptable.
Yeah, we'll be doing all right. Venezuela's ranked 8th. They've got King Felix will be their ace, Anibal Sanchez and Carlos Zambrano will be out there. It looks like that it's a good chance that K-Rod could be their closer. So we'll see how it
Maybe he'll
pans out for
showcase. He
him.
might be a free agent, still, and if he showcases himself,
Yeah.
it might be his last chance to do anything before.
Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah, he's playing for contract probably at that point. So Elvis Andrus will be in the infield. Cabrera will be playing at first. Kung Fu Panda, Pablo Sandoval will be playing at third. Marco Scudero, I'm sure he'll be at second. And then they got Carlos Gonzalez and Martin Prado in the outfield, along with Gerardo Parra. So, so it'll be fun to watch, and I think everything's going to be broadcast on the Major League Baseball Network.
Yes.
So, and I'm sure for those of you who are smarter than I am, you can find it streaming somehow.
Okay, well, wrapping that up, one thing I wanted to get to before we close out here in about 15 minutes. During the offseason, there's a lot of attention paid to major market teams, like why aren't the Yankees doing anything, and why, here's the million people Boston is signing to grasp at a ring this year. A little bit of the more quiet teams that I think were winners in the offseason. Minnesota Twins acquired Vance Worley for Ben Revere. They gave up young talent for young talent, and Ben Revere looks really good. He's going to be a good addition anywhere he goes. But I'd rather have good young pitching that's proven itself at a major league level than a pretty good center fielder that's proven himself at a major league level. I think it was kind of a steal. They also acquired Alex Meyer for Denard Span. Really good move considering the Minnesota Twins really aren't expected to compete, at least for the next few years. I don't know if you've seen Alex Meyer's numbers. He was, I think, the 23rd overall pick from the Nationals.
Okay.
Just really good young right-handed talent. Another big the Raphael signing and acquiring Denard Span, two good moves for the Nationals, who are going to contend this year. I know you don't like the number of zeros on that check for Rafael Soriano, but it's going to be lights out. Nationals are, I mean, I expect them to be the best team in baseball again this year, unless some crazy injuries happen. Any opinions on any teams' winnings this year?
Yeah, I think, the Nationals probably, they put together, they got LaRoche back. That was pretty big for them.
Yeah, I forgot to write that down. LaRoche has amazing team chemistry with the Nationals.
Yeah, and then, and I guess if you got the money and you want to invest it in closing, I wouldn't go about it that way. I'd find a way to trade for a closer. But, I think that probably the Nationals had the best offseason. With the Angels they got Hamilton. I don't think that was that great.
I don't think that was that great.
I think, but Hamilton wasn't going to take anything less than 5 years. If if I was a team, I would have given him 3 years with a 4-year option. Mm-hmm. Or maybe 4 years with a 5-year option, just to make him happy. And then there'd be some buyout. But I'm afraid that he's probably going to break down. And he'll be fine for a couple of years, but he's never made it through a full season. He's good for about 130 games.
Yeah. I don't get it. I really don't. I mean, he's got really majestic home runs now and then, and I mean a lot. He deserved the MVP that he got a couple years ago, but 5 years for an injury-prone guy who's not young, big risk.
Yeah. The Dodgers, again, they got Greinke, and I guess what was his what did he get for it?
Greinke?
Yeah, what was his contract?
$147 million for 6 years.
Okay, so you're looking at about 25 a year for a number 2 guy. If I don't know, again, they've got the money to do it.
He would be a number 1 in other rotations.
Right. I mean, you're getting 2 aces. He's going to be number 2 in the rotation. That might actually take some pressure off of him. Mm-hmm. We'll see how that shakes out. After this year, he could very well be dominant. Not having like the entire spotlight on him with Kershaw in there as well. I just think it's a lot of money for any team. When you already have 1 ace, I guess if you can afford a second one, as obviously the Dodgers can. Yeah, it makes sense. But
yeah, I
look at everything, from a Doug Melvin perspective.
Yeah. Well, the Dodgers don't have have to deal with money as strategically as Doug Melvin has to. They can throw a ton of money away, and they've proven. I really don't like what the Dodgers have done with their team. I don't know why Hanley Ramirez needed to join the Dodgers. I don't know why Carl Crawford,
Well, Carl Crawford is going to be.
But they're talking about trading Andre Ethier now. I mean, that's
a little silly. Crawford was great with the Rays, and then as soon as he came to Boston, just totally fell apart.
Yeah, and he's not going to be. I mean, you get these guys, and they're just not going to be what they were. I don't know. So yeah, I would put the Dodgers. I don't know you can feel about them however you like. I would be excited to add Greinke to my team, but there's gonna be a whole lot of stars with a whole lot of ego. It's gonna be one team. And they're still in the division with the team that won the World Series last year.
Yeah.
A team that has really good chemistry. As annoying as I find them, they really do.
Yeah. Well, they don't have your favorite guy on that team anymore. So.
Yeah. I am not going to get into my disdain for Brian Wilson, but it runs very deep. I find him to be one of the most irritating people.
Got team.
Yeah. Got team. Great. Yeah. But still, the Giants have a really good team. They're kind of not flashy, and they all really get along. And,
right.
Sergio Romo is going to be a pretty good...
Yeah, I love Sergio Romo.
Yeah. I don't like his little dance that he does when he gets...
Yeah, that's a little silly, but, he's got he's got all the flair, and he can close it out.
What do you think Lincecum's going to be next year?
I think Lincecum's going to have to... I don't know. He's going to have to bounce back.
His bags?
No, I think he'll bounce back, all right? I don't think that there's a way that a two-time Cy Young winner just completely falls apart like that.
I don't think he's ever going to win a Cy Young again or be in contention.
Yeah, I don't know if, I'm guessing that somewhere along the line, like maybe he just got a little cocky and didn't work out in the offseason, just kind of let himself go, and then all of a sudden the season was there. Because if I remember correctly, he started to pick it up near the end of the season. But the first half
still
was
in the bullpen
awful.
During the playoffs, though.
Right. Well,
for a lot of it.
But, yeah, you don't really need him all that much. I mean, Zito was great. Mm-hmm. And then, it was like all of a sudden that contract paid off for that one game he went out and just was like lights out.
Yeah. Losers in the offseason. I wanted to say the Yankees really... they re-signed Ichiro. They lost Rafael Soriano. I don't know what to say. For a team that, you're expected to compete every year, your fans are pretty bloodthirsty, and their biggest complaint to you is that you have too many old guys on your team and they're weighing down, the quality by getting injured or just getting tired, and then you re-sign Ichiro and that's it. Yeah. You're not listening. It's just not logical to me.
Well, I think obviously Ichiro can hit in that park.
Oh, yeah. Ichiro's not a bad player. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, but that's a move that they should have made. But, they're a team that always, goes after, whatever the hottest pitcher was that last year.
Yeah.
And this year I'm surprised that they didn't, throw $160 million at Greinke.
Yeah. No, and I don't get it, but... Maybe they're just trying to develop young talent. It's not there for them. I mean, they have a decent farm. They'll be able to put something together, hopefully. But another team, the Phillies, same thing. A lot of old guys on their team last year. And other than the acquisition of Ben Revere, which they gave up young talent for, I think, what did they do? They acquired Michael Young.
Yeah.
Not great. I mean, better than Placido Polanco, but to what end? I don't know. I mean, I don't think Roy Halladay is what he was.
No, I mean, he's getting old. He's been in the league, for quite a long time.
Yeah. And he's a Hall of Famer.
Right.
But
I think his Cy Young days are behind him.
Yeah. Same with Cliff Lee. Cole Hamels is going to be good, but you're going to have three exceptionally good pitchers for maybe 1 or 2 more years, and then a consistently injured lineup with Chase Utley, Ryan Howard.
Right. How much longer do they have Cliff Lee for?
I want to say 4 seasons, including this one.
So between him and Halladay, this is a perfect example of what you were saying before of they've got Cole Hamels who they're going to have to sign. but I don't think they're going to be able to have the money to do it. And
What, they signed Cole Hamels. They extended him last year.
did they?
Yeah, they extended
Okay.
him near yeah, because he was about to be traded. And then he was extended.
Okay, all right.
But let's see. I'm trying to look. It's a 5-year contract, which he's pitched to. So he has 3 more years, and then there's a vesting option for a 6th year, which will be declined if I had to guess.
Yeah,
And they'll probably. I think they'll trade him eventually.
yeah. For Philly's sake, they better hope that one of those 2 guys really bounces back, and the other one, it just pitches to his, even somewhat of his ability.
Yeah.
Otherwise they're done.
All right. Well, we're
The
about
other
to,
other
sorry.
losers, I think it's pretty safe to say that, the Brewers weren't really, they're definitely not winners.
No, they weren't.
I think they're taking care of some of their bullpen. I think that's good. I would have, as I think we both were kind of stating, we would have liked to have seen them go out and get another starter. I don't really think that they needed anything as far as position players go, but another starter would have been.
Yeah, I think I would have really loved to see Dan Herron get signed. I would have loved to see Dan Herron. I would have loved to see. I'd like to see Loesch. I mean, I really like Loesch.
Would you have rather had Anibal Sanchez or Dempster?
Oh, for like Annibal for 5 or Dempster for 3.
Yeah.
Dempster.
Yeah.
I mean, I really didn't want either though, to be
Yeah.
honest. So.
Yeah, I don't know if I really wanted either.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we're taking a gamble. We have a young Ryan Braun only for about 3 more years, and he's going to be really good, I think, for the majority of his contract with us, and I'm not really worried about that. But you don't get players like Ryan Braun often,
Right.
at all.
Unless you're terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you get Bryce Harper and Strasburg in back-to-back years.
Yeah, but even
But
then,
now they're going to the World Series next year.
Yeah,
probably.
and Rendon was supposed to be that good, and then he got injured, and that was their pick the year after that. And so the point is, all prospects don't pan out.
Yeah.
Mike Trout was picked 25th overall, I think it was. And
Yeah, right.
So I think I would have liked to have seen them go a little bit more all in, the Crew. I'm a little bit skeptical of their strategy. I'm actually deeply skeptical of their strategy, and I think that I don't think they're gonna make it to the playoffs. I think the Cardinals and Braves are gonna be the wild card. The Reds are just gonna win 100 games because they have Shin Soo Choo now to add to Joey Votto and Brandon Phillips.
Yeah, and having that guy's going to be very helpful.
Yeah. Matt Latos proved that he can pitch in that park, so they're gonna be really good.
Yeah, and Johnny Cueto's still on the team.
Yeah. So I only got a few more minutes here.
Well, I don't know. We should probably just really quick mention Baseball World lost 2 greats yesterday.
Yeah.
With Stan Musial from the Cardinals, Hall of Famer, and then Earl Weaver, who actually was he was a Hall of Famer, but as a manager.
He presided over probably the most successful team of the 1970s with the Orioles. He won 1 championship. And more than his winning record, he's known for having an extremely hot temper.
Yeah, if you're looking for a good laugh, go to YouTube and just type in Earl Weaver umpire fight.
Yep.
And there's like a 4-minute just exchange of just vulgarity. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Next week, Corey will not be here with us. Sounded like I was talking about you dying or something. Corey will be at the Brewers on Deck event. We may have him call in. But what I'd like to do with that amount of time is talk about the Hall of Fame and how I have major problems with the way we perceive the Hall of Fame, and why I think it's a travesty that players like Barry Bonds aren't in on their first ballot. And it has nothing to do with how good of a guy I think Barry Bonds is, or his integrity in general. But yeah, it'll be a little bit of a discussion, and yeah, I don't know, I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll try to call in while I'm standing in line for somebody's autograph.
Yeah, we'll see what's going on.
It's Brewers related, so I'll try to make it worth your time.
The mile-long Burke Badenhop line doesn't, you don't get.
Right. I hope I win that lottery.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. It's a $50 signing, I believe. I think I saw. Yeah, last things. If you want to email the show, if you want us to answer any questions or have anything you'd like to say, you can either find us online. Just search for Turning Up the Heat with Tommy and Corey, or Corey and Tommy, I'm not sure. You can like us. We'll post updates about the show. You can email us at turnuptheheat414@gmail.com or add us on Twitter at turnuptheheat414. Let's see. I wanted to thank Direct Hit for letting us use their song Boredomatic. That's what you heard at the intro of the show. Really great band from Milwaukee.
Yeah, we'll be playing other Milwaukee bands each week.
Yeah.
We'll open with a different one. So.
Yeah, until someone writes us a theme song.
Right.
So write us a theme song.
Yeah, so thanks for listening. If anybody out there is trying to get rid of their baseball card collection for a reasonable price, let me know. I'll come over and look through them all, and maybe we can work something out. So I'll throw that out there every week, probably.
One last thing is a friend of mine, Caitlin Prussia, is putting together a charity. It's for her nephew who was stricken with a form of child leukemia. I'm not sure what the exact scientific name is, but he has leukemia. He's a little kid. There's absolutely no reason to not find that tragic. And if you can look online for Running for Rowan, Rowan, I want to say. The internet's going a little slow here. I'd look it up. But look for that if you can. If you have any extra money you want to throw to it, it's a great cause, great people. I think that's about it. So thanks for listening. Corey, any closing words here?
No, thanks again. And yeah, I'll be gone next week. I'll call in, but Tommy will be here, and then it'll be just me in 2 weeks from now. So.
Yeah, because I will likely be in Illinois for the Super Bowl. We do a family thing there. All right, well, I'm going to leave with a little bit of Stan Musial I think you'll all enjoy. It's not often you get a chance to like a St. Louis Cardinal, but I think he's worthy of it.
This week, a little bit of a mishmash. Started out with some tracks by Welcome to the Wireless Virus Archive Show. My name is Jeff Catton. I'm the producer of the show. The things you'll hear over the next hour and a half or so represent the views of the wireless virus and the people that are making them. All quotations in no way represent River West Radio and are the sole responsibility.
We're having some technical difficulties with the Stan Musial clip here. Do yourself a favor, look up Stan Musial, Take Me Out to the Ball Game. It's a really endearing clip of him playing the harmonica during a Hall of Fame induction. It's pretty heartwarming. Great way to end the show here. Thanks for listening. Bye.
On a daydream. Trying to find a date on this. All right. You're listening to riverwestradio.com.